Section 4 of the From Ball to Lillis book by Johnny Maynell, Financial Woes, 1981 to 1987. Season 1981-82, League Division 4, finishing 19th. League Cup, as always, the first round. FA Cup, as always it would seem, the first round. Halifax Town were re-elected to the Football League at the annual meeting with 41 votes, with Tranmere polling 48 and Hereford and York 46 each. Town had once again received the fewest of the four league clubs, but though Alliance Premier champions Altrincham were expected to put in a strong challenge, they came nowhere, receiving only 15 nominations. Doubtless manager George Kirby was relieved, but he would not be for long. With the directors ever fearful of a repeat season, they decided he should go. On the 30th of June, Chairman Sam Rourke met Kirby and sought his resignation. When he refused, Kirby had another 2 years of his contract still to run. Rourke sacked him on the spot. Few were surprised. Despite the glories the previous season in the FA Cup, it was the league that was the bread and butter, and in that Kirby had failed miserably. More than 40 applications were received for the vacancy, but from a short list of 6, the board made the surprise decision of promoting from within. Coach Mickey Bullock was installed as the new manager, but would have a hard time in this, his first season. With Kirby having already released Dave Harris, Carl Dryhurst, Andy Stafford, Brian Chambers and his own son Simon, Bullock cancelled the contracts of Kenny Burton and Clive Nattrass, then sought replacements. Left-back Everton Carr arrived from Leicester City, and midfielder Glyn Chamberlain from Chesterfield. But the biggest signing Bullock made was that of young striker Bobby Davison from neighbours Huddersfield at a cost of £20,000. Billy Eyre was also promoted to player coach. Whilst in the boardroom, the familiar face of Jack Turner returned 18 months after Andrew Delaney had forced him out. I'm just flicking through the picture section of the book, and there's a lot of pictures that have done the rounds sort of online or have been famous for one reason or another. George Best in action for Manchester United in the Watney Cup, July 1971. Halifax are the opponents for Wimbledon's first ever league match, August 1977. Paul Hendry and the boot that kicked Manchester City at the FA Cup, January 1980. Dave Evans takes off horizontally in the game at Huddersfield, April 1980. Barry Gallagher terrifies the Doncaster defence, February 1984. I understand this isn't really relevant on an audio book, it's just to try and fill the gap while I get back to the chapter, which I will do so now. Sam Rourke, this is the 1981-82 season, pre-season at the minute. Sam Rourke, new chairman for the season, having took over the reins halfway through the previous season, helped fund the new £50,000 floodlights, which were switched on for the first time on the 10th of August in a friendly with League of Ireland side Cliftonville. But in the next sheer friendly, Huddersfield fans run amok, some gaining free access by breaching the pauperous perimeter of the ground. Rourke vowed to improve security at this year and included a 9 feet high perimeter fence among the list of improvements. The Shea was to undergo a facelift with the entrance to the ground put under tarmac and the old Shea Club replaced by a restaurant, Chimes. With the Football League introducing 3 points for a win, it was imperative that teams went for maximum points. But though Town played some attractive football, results failed to materialise, and they soon found themselves in their customary low position. In the League Cup too, despite encouraging performances over Tommy Docherty's 3rd Division Preston, Town failed to make round 2. It was a frustrating start for Bullock. Following a 2-3 defeat at Hartlepool, he saw fit to transfer list John Kilner, Jimmy McIlwraith, Vernon Allott and Francis Firth. Kilner kept his place for Town's next game, but his confidence was shattered as Blackpool scored 7. Bullock responded by taking Lee Smelt from Nottingham Forest, initially on loan before securing him in a £10,000 deal. Immediately fortunes improved. As one keeper arrived, so another left, but the surprise was that it was not the hapless Kilner, but young reserve Bobby Mims. Having served his apprenticeship, Mims had signed professional forms in August. After starring against Rotherham United reserves on the 2nd of September, Miller's boss Emlyn Hughes came back for him, paying £15,000 in November. Not bad for a player who would yet to feature in Halifax's first team. November also saw Tommy O'Neill break his leg in a 2-1 victory over Mansfield, and Town bowed out of the FA Cup, losing 3-0 at home to Peterborough. The following month, Bullock stiffened his midfield by securing Steve Spooner from Derby. Spooner made his debut in the defeat at Wigan, but this turned out to be Town's last game for a month. Heavy snow put pay to 3 matches up to the turn of the year. It was the last thing that the club needed. Dark clouds were looming over the Shay as attention suddenly focused on Town's off-field financial plight. The balance sheet for the year ending the 31st of March showed that Town had made a loss of £34,062 and were now £112,000 in the red. With attendances only around the 1,800 mark, Sam Rock was concerned enough to call a public meeting at the Civic Theatre on the 11th of January, where he put this question to those present: do the people of Calderdale want a Football League club? The Did You Know section for this chapter. Jimmy Lawson was relegated with Huddersfield in 1972, 1973 and 1975, and was with Halifax when they had to reapply for re-election in 1977. Around 2,000 turned up at the Civic Theatre, among them TV presenters John Helm and Derek Dugan, town boss Alan Clark and the Mayor, Councillor Eric Whitehead. Rourke urged those present to pledge money, setting a survival target of £100,000 with a deadline of 6 weeks. By the end of February, the money raised totaled only got to £13,845, and Rourke was adamant that the die was cast. On the 1st of March, he summoned a press conference and, with tears in his eyes, told reporters that the club was up for sale. What a difference a day makes. Less than 24 hours later, Rourke joined forces with Mickey Bullock with the battle cry, "We carry on." Rourke insisted that, provided the club could see out the season, they would seek to cut the wage bill. They could kick off the following season with a clean sheet, but his rallying call was undermined by Jimmy McWaithwaite's revelations in the Sun that he was earning £350 a week, while most players were on just £120. Bullock suspended McIlfrate without pay for 2 weeks, a fine which was doubled when the player twice failed to report to the club. Meanwhile, Halifax Town had found some form. A 9-match unbeaten run had enabled the team to creep out of the re-election zone. 7 of those games, however, were draws, and Town would have made better progress had they not gifted opponents late goals to deprive themselves of victory, as at Bournemouth and Tranmere, then later against Darlington at the Shay. There was a recall for Kilner when Lee Smelt fractured a knuckle in training, but after playing in Town's best win of the season, 4-1 over Stockport, Kilner conceded 10 in 2 games against Bradford City and Sheffield United. Town slid back to 23rd. Smelt, fit again, was restored, and a 6-match unbeaten run saw Town once again climb out of the danger zone. Though the team lost heavily at York on the 7th of May, Rochdale's defeat at Hull the following day meant that, with 2 games still to play, Town were safe. Mickey Bullock would look back on the season with satisfaction. Not only had re-election been avoided, but the average attendance had gone up. Town had experimented 3 times with Friday night football, which had proved successful as the supporters rallied to Sam Rourke's call, and Bobby Davison had ended up top scorer with 21 goals, the first Town player to pass the 20 mark since Les Massey in 1967-68. In a season that almost saw the club fold, Davison proved to be the jewel that would keep Town alive.